investigating would be food. How can one provide sustenance out of a marginal environment like the Sonoran Desert, where we have water limitations, we have temperature extremes. So intensive growing of plants, figuring out what works, how to turn our streams of compost into worms, into really high quality food for plants, and to close that loop, to see how we can do a really intensive garden that provides for a significant number of people in a small space with limited resources.
I got into it through my family, some cousins, and did it with them for a couple years on and off, kind of part-time, and then got out of it. And a few years later, you know, life just said, hey, this is a way to make a living. And plus I was realizing other things, and it's one of the first currencies known to man. And it's one of the oldest things, you know, done, and it's real currency. It's not plastic, it's not dollars. You can barter with it, you can grind it and eat it, you can plant it. It's substantial currency. It's the real thing. It's Juniperus monosperma, and it goes into the medicinal herbal field, which we also do that. We sell not just for revegetation and reclamation work, but we harvest plants that are used in the medicinal industry. We have ephedra, we do creosote, osha, juniper berries, and a number of other things. This stuff is stuff that hasn't been processed yet, and still sitting in the outside room.
What do you do to process? You have to clean them or something?
Well, like yeah, each seed has, depending on its structure, has a different process that it goes through. Berries, they're really easy. Any of the legumes they're heavy seeds. So yeah, the heavier the seed is and the bigger it is, the easier it is to clean. Hard ones to do are some of the composite flowers and grasses.
Where do you collect your stuff?
On Forest Service land, BLM land, county land, some private lands, and you know, there's different hoops to jump through on each of those entities. Sometimes a rancher might have some land, and I find a crop there, and I bring him a case of beer, and he's good. Goes to ADOT. Mines, ranchers, county flood control projects, federal flood control projects, a lot of pipelines. By law, say if somebody cuts a pipeline through our land, you know, our Forest Service BLM land, they're required by law to reseed that disturbed area. So you might have a 1,000-mile pipeline going through many different biomes, and all the seed has to be collected per that biome, you know, and reseeded.
Well, this is our little local native herbarium, and you can see in those jars we've collected mesquite beans, which are a staple crop in this part of the world. They grow on all these trees you've been looking at, mesquite trees, and they're sweet, and they have sugar content and starch content and protein. They're nutritious, and we have other medicinal herbs in here that we collect from scratch, and we do clay from the desert rather, and then we collect clay right out of the ground here and fire pottery and open fires. You can see some of the pots we made, and we try to do everything from scratch because that's sustainable. Eating beans right off the trees, digging clay right out of the ground, and firing it with wood, you know, that falls off the trees. That's about as sustainable as you get. Okay, so this is a closer look at the Watto. We collected palm fronds from Tucson, where there's many thousands of palm trees that shed their leaves. Probably not a native plant to this area. The nearest native palm is probably 100 miles west of here or so, or more, on the Colorado River area. But anyway, it works for our purposes. And then we've got some poles, some trees that were cut down north of here and tied together with agave twine, and then that bench is made of adobe, the clay we get out of the ground. You can see the bricks on the bottom, and some volunteers built that, so it's a place to sit in the shade.
Since I've been here at Terrasante, I've learned, gosh, so much stuff. I've learned a lot of these, what they call primitive skills. How to start a fire, a friction fire with my bare hands, just using 2 sticks. I've learned how to tan a hide, how to make cordage, or rope essentially out of natural materials, how to boil water using mirrors and reflecting a bunch of mirrors at a single point to boil water and pump a piston and create electricity. I've learned about how to take care of your trees and other plants that you want to grow in the desert, because it's such an arid area. You need to be really cautious of water, so how to develop different berms and basins for them to capture the water.